The film opens in 1979 in Wrangell, Alaska, with a team of lumberjacks laboring to cut and haul stacked trees. One of the workers is at the forefront, driving the trucks, when his vehicle is suddenly lifted into the air by an unseen object and then swiftly dropped back to the ground. The man's friend Carl, who had witnessed the alarming events, hurries to the overturned car in front of him to rescue his friend. However, before he can do so, he is stunned by the sight of a hovering saucer in the sky. Startled, Carl attempts to flee, but the spaceship swiftly overtakes him, lifting him up with a brilliant blue beam of light. The setting shifts to present-day California, where a young computer engineer named Isaac is cycling through the city's streets toward the technology building. Upon entering one of the rooms, he encounters his friends Beck and Samantha, who are struggling to decipher their work. Isaac promptly arrives and swiftly resolves their issue, leading them to a signal in Canada. After spending the entire day working and staying late, Isaac grabs his bike and heads over to his therapist. During their discussion, his therapist mentions that he likes making videos and suggests that he start making video diaries. Taking the older woman's advice, Isaac begins to make the home videos. One afternoon, while filming himself hiking a nearby mountain, he and the entire city are shocked to witness giant fireballs crashing into the hills. The area quickly becomes swarmed with government officials attempting to determine what had fallen to Earth. Close to the object, Isaac grabs his camera and begins filming what appears to be a massive flying saucer, only for it to suddenly vanish from sight. Disappointed at not being able to see more, Isaac sets down his camera and turns to leave, only to be startled by an alien standing behind him. Quietly continuing to film, Isaac stands there in shock until the alien departs. Startled by what he has witnessed, Isaac begins to run. 3 days later, Isaac awakens near the water with no recollection of what transpired. As he looks around, he spots his camera recorder beside him and sifts through his previous images. Upon adjusting the image, he sees the alien and comes to the chilling realization that he has been abducted, observing himself being lifted into the ship in the video. Returning home, Isaac pays attention to the scars on his arm and begins to experience strange incidents and hallucinations. The following morning, Isaac goes to get himself checked out at the hospital. After his checkup, he's informed that a strange hair-thin fracture had been found on his arm in a perfect right angle. The doctor tells him that it seemed like Isaac's arm was cut perfectly all the way through, and finds it strange that it was completely healed. After his doctor's appointment, Isaac goes to the office and speaks to his friend Beck, showing him the video he had captured. Beck is shocked by what he has seen on the video, but has a hard time believing it is real. Unable to get the understanding he needs from his friends, Isaac returns home and uploads his video on the internet. The following morning, Isaac is woken up by a call from a news station manager who has seen his video and wants to question him about it. Surprised by the call, Isaac checks the internet and sees the video he uploaded has gone viral. On his way to work, Isaac gets several more calls from different news and blog sites. In the afternoon, Isaac received a call from TV show host Christina, who invited him to share his story. After recounting the event, Christina raised suspicions, suggesting that it was convenient for him to have a camera, and questioning whether he had manipulated the images due to his extensive computer knowledge. Isaac defends himself, telling the audience that he has not lied. After his interview, Isaac becomes incredibly famous, his video catching the nation's attention and every social media personnel's speculation. Isaac becomes stressed when he sees people begin to assume that he is lying and starts researching other people who have been abducted. After numerous tries, Isaac finally manages to connect with a like-minded individual and schedules a dinner meeting. As he waits to meet this stranger, Isaac starts to hallucinate, believing he's making the salt and pepper shakers float, only to be brought back to reality by the waiter. Shortly after, a nervous Sarah arrives and introduces herself, taking a seat across from him. Passionate about his research, Isaac begins to ask Sarah some questions, but she is hesitant to answer. Seeing her nervousness, Isaac begins to show her old pictures of accounts painted by people throughout the centuries, telling her that the aliens must have been around for a long time. Taken aback by the wealth of new information, Sarah asks Isaac whether he's heard about the 1979 abduction. Upon learning that he hasn't, Sarah goes on to recount the tale of a man being abducted in the woods, accompanied by 3 witnesses who all passed lie detector tests. She also reveals that after the man came forward with his story, he immediately disappeared. After obtaining his contact information for further discussion, Sarah departs, leaving Isaac even more intrigued. A few days later, Isaac receives a call from Sarah, who divulges additional details about the abducted man named Carl. Isaac attempts to find the article online but comes up empty-handed. Sarah informs him that she only found the information in a newspaper at the library, promising to send it to him before ending the call. Once hangs up, Isaac continues to do more research, contacting all the people who had claims of an abduction. While trying to mail the envelopes, Isaac runs into a blogger who tells him that he would like to get his side of the story out as people on the news continue to disregard his story. Upon returning home that afternoon, Isaac grows weary of being labeled a liar and decides to contact the blogger. Visiting the man's office, he requests to speak with Keith, who warmly welcomes him and proposes administering a lie detector test to ensure the truthfulness of Isaac's claims. Hearing Isaac agree, Keith excitedly brings the lie detector machine and sets it up on Isaac. Starting the interrogation with simple questions, Keith begins to go through the list, finally confirming Isaac's honesty. Telling him to wait for a few seconds, Keith leaves the room and returns with two men dressed all in black, who drag Isaac out of the office and kidnap him by rendering him unconscious while he tries to escape. Upon regaining consciousness, Isaac discovers himself in a facility where he is placed in a white room and forced to sit in a chair. As he surveys his surroundings, he witnesses androids dressed in white escorting a frightened Sarah into another room. On the television screen before him, the man who had identified himself as Keith reappears, revealing that his true identity is Agent Graves. He informs Isaac that he has been detained because it is believed he possesses information that could benefit humanity. Agent Graves then makes him go through different tests to assess how much exposure Isaac had to the aliens. When Isaac doesn't show any abilities, Graves angrily asks him if he had any contact with Carl, the man abducted in 1979, accidentally letting it slip out through the intercom that they couldn't search the whole of British Columbia. Finding the whole thing suspicious, Isaac manages to free himself from the cuffs on his hand. To free her, Isaac harnesses his newfound abilities to unlock a sealed door and successfully leads them out of the facility. Emerging into a forest, Isaac and Sarah dash through the woods until they eventually reach a small town. Upon entering a bar, Isaac speaks with the local bartender about the nearest internet access, and the bartender provides the two fugitives with directions, giving them a name to ask for. After traveling several miles by foot, Isaac and Sarah arrive at another local outdoor bar and find a man using a laptop. Approaching him, Isaac asks if the man's name is Zed, which the stranger confirms. Before they can ask any questions, the fugitives notice two androids arriving and are forced to leave the area. Guided by Zed through the forest, he reveals his knowledge about the individuals who abducted them. Zed then escorts them to his well-furnished treehouse home. As their host makes preparations, Sarah confides in Isaac about her abduction as a child, an event she has no recollection of. Leveraging the intel Isaac had gathered from the agents, Zed, who was also a skilled hacker, establishes a connection between Isaac and Carl, who was in hiding. Initially reluctant to engage with them, Isaac pleads with the older man, explaining his predicament and imploring him for assistance. Isaac transmits to Carl the signal that had led him to the mountaintop initially, which Carl decrypts, revealing it to be an alien message, indicating their imminent arrival on a specific day. Eager to make this discovery, Isaac, Sarah, and Zed hitchhike their way out of Costa Rica and head to Canada, where they believe Carl is hiding. After a lengthy journey and a private plane ride, the group finally arrives in Canada, oblivious to the fact that Graves and his agents are tracking them. Deciding to take a train to their destination, the group boards the quickest one they can find, thinking they are safe from their persuaders. Suddenly, Zed, who had been working on checking on who was after them, realized that two androids were following them close behind. To avoid facial recognition by the androids, Zed gives them masks, but his plan doesn't work and the group is almost killed. The group disperses to separate the two androids and then manages to escape by pushing them off of the train. Once they are sure they're safe, Isaac and the others calmly exit the train and hitchhike their way to a cabin in the woods where they are sure Carl is living. As soon as they arrive at the house, the group is started when Carl comes out with a shotgun, threatening to shoot. Once Carl is sure about who they are, he uses a special device to deactivate the tracking device that that both the aliens and the government agency are using. After ensuring their safety, Carl invites them into his cabin and reveals that he has spent the last 20 years attempting to locate the aliens. He explains that he successfully translated the signals into a comprehensible language, allowing them to hear what he had already deciphered. Carl then tells them about the day he had been abducted, reciting the story as if it had happened yesterday. While they talk, Sarah opens a song on Carl's turntable as Zed watches the equipment in the cabins with fascination. Zed is surprised that Carl was able to figure all these things out, even though he had only been a lumberjack years ago. Outdoors, Isaac and Sarah sit together, taking in the breathtaking scenery. Intrigued, Sarah questions Isaac about how he managed to free them from the facility, suspecting that the abduction may have altered them in some way. She wonders if they might have been exposed to something that had caused a change in them, an idea to which Isaac assents. When they return to the cabin, Carl stops Isaac on his track and tells him that they need to be ready for finally meeting the aliens because they would only be getting one chance, explaining that he needs to speak to him about a plan. 2 days later, the group is sitting by the window of the cabin, anticipating the arrival of the aliens as expected. Suddenly, Isaac and Sarah feel the ground shaking, expecting that they must be close. Barging out of the house, Isaac heads into the woods despite Sarah begging for him to stop. While he's walking around in the woods, Isaac suddenly comes across an alien, leading the alien back to the cabin. The alien presents Isaac with a vision of Jesus and explains that they were seeking him because they believed he was the source of the universe. Intrigued, Emma inquires about the aliens and why their hands have been hurting since the abduction. In response, the aliens utilize a highly advanced device to effortlessly detach their arms and reveal the tracking device, allowing them to remove it without pain. Suddenly, Carl's devices pick up motion around the house and realize they're surrounded. Using a microphone, Graves asks about what happened to his father, but Carl adamantly tells him that he didn't know. Unwilling to believe the older man, Graves has his men shoot Carl and Sarah, who had come out to help him. Angry about what happened to Sarah, Isaac unleashes the power inside him, using it to slow down time and save his friends. Although they had been shot, the aliens returned and saved Carl and Sarah. Invisible from their enemy's sight, the group walks past their enemies to freedom. Looking up, Graves and his agents see the alien spacecraft float up to the sky and disappear from sight. 6 months later, Isaac continued to explore and understand his powers, and he and Sarah relocated to a distant place after falling in love. Meanwhile, Carl and Zed joined forces to establish a new agency, while Graves was dismissed from his position as an agent due to multiple instances of misconduct. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.